Hello and welcome to the white charcoal drawing demonstration video of the face for our practice. Now, last time we worked on our transfer and adding our value scales. Today we are going to come in and use just our white charcoal, our Q-tip, our value finder, and an eraser to go through and fill in the values accurately. Now, I would like to just show you the difference between having some of the gray tone of the paper show through versus having them overlap. Now, in this example, you can see that the white fades out to this warm gray tone of the paper, and the black fades out to the warm gray tone of the paper, so that this is showing through. So if I look at just that middle color, comparatively, you can see that the gray down at the bottom is much colder and it has kind of a blue hint to it. So what I want for us to do is allow the gray paper to show between our white and black. We do not want them to interact or overlap on top of each other because it changes the color to a cold gray. Instead, we want to just have them fade out to the background gray. Now, to help with that, we are going to do our shading in two different layers. We're going to work just with our white charcoal for today, and next time we will come in and work with just our black charcoal, and that is to avoid having that overlap. Now, you might take a moment and sharpen your white charcoal pencils. I like to use the left side of my sharpener, and I turn very slowly and hold it very still inside of that space. And I use the left because the right has a much taller lead and not as much of a wood casing. So since the charcoal is very fragile, the chance of it breaking on the tall lead side is much higher. So use the left side to sharpen. Now, once you've got your pencils sharpened, we're going to set up our sample. We want to have our reference photo on the left if you're a right-handed person. So go ahead and set your reference photo on the left, your drawing on the right, and you should have your white charcoal pencil, your Q-tip, your value finder, and your eraser. Now we're gonna work starting from the top left, going to the bottom right to prevent smudging with our hands. Now, go ahead and pick up your white charcoal pencil. We're going to start in the top left, and we're going to fill this in so that it is totally and completely solid white. So we're going to go through and just press very hard with a lot of pressure. Don't press so hard that you break your pencil, of course. And we're going to bring this line down until we reach this forehead line. Now, right at that edge, I had drawn a line to show myself that the value change is there. So I just erase that line. That's what I'm doing right now. I erase that line so it's totally gone. And then I realize, okay, that's right where it starts to transition out to a different tone. So I'm going to come in and along this edge all the way up to the eyebrow, I'm going to help it to fade out. So I'm just fading that out all the way up to the eyebrow. Now those highlight areas extend all the way to the side of the eyebrow. So I'm gonna bring that line up. So right now we've kind of got like a capital L. We've got like the side that's stretched all the way down to that first little value line and then stretched all the way out along the eyebrow here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the solid white and it's almost like a little triangle. So we're going to just fill this in and kind of lean it at an angle back out towards the eyebrow. A little triangle shape. Let's go ahead and fill this in nice and solid. We want to make sure we don't have any little grainy spots left behind. And blow away your dust. Check to make sure that it's all the way filled. And then let's continue on the side. And we're gonna start to fade this out. So we can see that it's getting to be a gray tone on the side of her forehead. So let's discover what color we're going to use to create that. So it's fading out to about a 5, which is still using white. Remember that 6 is the one that is just the paper tone. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in, we're gonna fade this out, and we know by looking at our value scales to see which number it was that we do still use a white charcoal pencil to create those darker values. Now, it is a little bit brighter along the eyebrow, and kind of wraps around back this way. So we're kind of leaving a little bit of an oval indentation on that right-hand side of her face. And I am gonna just darken, or I guess brighten up the triangle of value that's like right at the edge of the eyebrow. I'm gonna come in and bring this value down just a little bit. All right, now let's continue working through this before we start to blend it out. Now let's add in the bright white underneath the eyebrow. And I'm gonna erase that outline before I fill out to it. Now I'm gonna continue filling that white, and I wanna have it fade out in that same kind of shape. All right. Now we're gonna hop over to the nose again, and we're gonna skip the hair until we get to the next video. So we're gonna come in and erase this little highlight on the bridge of the nose. We're gonna fill that in. We're gonna have that fade out to white, or to the gray tone of the paper. All right, now let's come in, and on the eye, we are going to start adding some here. We're gonna come in and right in that little tear duct, I'm gonna erase this outline edge of my tear duct. I'm gonna come in and just add a little bit of white right there. I'm also gonna add it right along that tear line. Not up against the white of the eye, but just like right beneath it. I'm gonna add the white underneath the eye, coming out here. And I'm making sure not to fill in that little dark patch that's directly underneath. Now, for the eye itself, let's add in the highlights. We've got some highlight behind the wrinkle. We've got a highlight right in that top left corner of the eyelid. And then of course the whites themselves in the eye. So let's go in and fill from the bottom, and we're gonna fade it out before we reach the top. Fill solid at the bottom. And we wanna fade the left side out very quickly because we don't have a lot of white on that side. Now let's continue working our way down. We are going to bring this value on the cheekbone up a little higher. And we're gonna make this section, this triangle right through here, brighter than the rest. So we're gonna add more pressure here. And I'm gonna erase these lines as I reach them. So I'm reaching the bridge of the nose, so I need to make sure I don't go too far into that space. So let's fade out along that edging. And it comes up to the edge of the nostril, is our clue there. It's also kind of just like straight down from the eye. Now let's go back to making this triangle on the cheek very strong. And then we're gonna fade it out. All right, so we're using lighter and lighter pressure, and we want to be aware of where we're gonna leave the 6 value with our paper tone showing through. So let's check, and we have a 6 line right along the edge here. So I am gonna go all the way to the edge of the mouth and fill in that little bit. And this is like the edge, our line where the shadow is coming in. Now, looking at these values, it was brighter in that triangle right underneath the eye. And then it kind of wraps up by the nose. And then it starts to fade out right at this line. So I'll erase that right by the nose. And I am going to check, and one really great part about this is I can check and say, okay, well, what do I do for this part above the lip? Is that really gonna be added white? Because it looks kind of darker gray. And the answer is yes, because we check it, and this shows me that's a 3 value. And remember that anything less than a 5, we make with our white charcoal pencil. So I am gonna come in, and oh, we forgot this little part on the nose, so let's always work from the top left to the bottom right. So let's come in and add this little highlight on the nose. It's kind of like a box shape, a very solid white. And then we're gonna fade it out and have that kind of touch back to that last highlight on the nose. I'm gonna erase the bridge of the nose here. And I'm just gonna bring the white out to that edge. All right, now I'm gonna erase the little nostril circle on top of the nostril hood, and I'm gonna add white right there as well. We are gonna border the nostril at the bottom there, and let's come in and we're gonna add these very bright white highlights on the lip. And like we checked when we came in, this is not a 6. We need to come in with our white to fill this. So now we're just gonna go back through and kind of fade everything out so it has nice smooth transitions reaching out. Kind of soften all of our edges up with like a soft layer around it. Okay, now what we're going to do next is we're going to come in and work on adding the base highlights for the lip. So I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna add a little stretch of white. I'm gonna add just a few little dots, a couple patches of white for the highlight, and then maybe a little bit underneath the section on the right side of the lip. Now, we are going to come in and stretch these darker values out. So I am going to add this patch working all the way through, and we're gonna bring this out right at the edge of the mouth. There's this little stretch that kind of comes out. Also at the bottom of the bottom lip, right through here. We're gonna have those stretch out. Now, let's come in and erase the highlight on the chin. I'm gonna fill that in with solid white. And then we're gonna let that fade out. All right, now it looks like we're getting pretty close. So I want you to take a moment. You are welcome to, I'll pause the video for a moment for you guys to get to this point before we come in to blend. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with our Q-tip, and we're going to, starting on the top, let's just use a very soft amount of pressure to blend that into the background. We don't want to take from our solid area, so try not to put too much pressure in that space, but we are just smoothing it out. Now, you have the option of taking a scrap piece of paper, and you can use that to clean your Q-tip off. If you start to get too much white on it, you can use a spare piece of paper to clean it off. Now, we are gonna just dust along the bottom of the eyebrow bone. Let's help that to fade out. We are gonna come in and on the eyelid, let's just kind of blend out that little highlight here. We've got the bridge of the nose, blending that out. And we want to keep the top of the nose to be fairly light. We've got that little nostril hood, and then the side of the bridge of the nose. Coming in and just softening up the outside edge of our cheek and all through it so that we don't have any textural lines left behind. It's helpful to go in the opposite direction with blending than what you were doing while you were drawing. That can help eliminate any lines that might still be left behind. Now we are gonna blend very softly on the lips. We don't wanna make too harsh of lines yet. We're gonna blend out that chin. All right, now at this point, and you can take a moment, just look up at the board really fast. We are going to go through and solidify all of our solid white spots. So I'm gonna come in and add more white to the bridge of the nose, a sharper, crisper white to the end. I'm gonna fill that in just a little bit more. I'm gonna fill in all of these areas where I just need a touch more, and we're trying to get rid of any lines that we have left, or if we accidentally stole from an area that we wanted to be solid, we can go back in and continue adding values there. All right, now on the lip section here with the highlight, I'm gonna add just a highlight on the interior of that space. I realized I forgot it. A little bit more on the outside edge of the mouth. I might just make this edge a little bit more stark. So we are just taking a moment to go through and perfect Now, what you'll do at the end of this is you're gonna go through and you're gonna check and say, okay, do I have all of these values matching where they should be? So you're checking to see like your 2 values, your 1 values, your 3s, anything that is between a 5 and a 0 on your reference photo, you should be perfecting right now as we're working. So you'll have just a little bit more time. You can continue working on this and going through to really look back and forth to match those details the best that we can. All right, well, you can keep on working and perfecting, but thank you so much for watching. Good job.